Welcome to the Predictive Playbook. I am John Ryan, your host, and the tournament has officially started. I don't know what to say. My feet haven't even touched the ground since Oral Roberts just defeated Ohio State. I'm hanging out here with my good betting friend Rob Veno of Rob Veno Sports. He also has the VegasOddsMachine.com, which is a cool site because it is able to determine where you're located, what state, and then it puts up the legal books in your state for you to look at. But I can barely even talk right now after watching that. And, you know, I just put out a tweet of a bet that kind of you and I made. And I felt stupid pulling the trigger on it, but I think it's a good example. And this is said humbly because I know the betting guys can, if I get cocky here, I'll probably never win a bet for the rest of the tournament. But we were looking at the live spread between Oral Roberts with Ohio State up 2 with 1:20 to go. And I said to Rob, can you believe this? The money line's minus 1,000 with 1:20 to go and 2-point lead. And then the money line was 625. I wasn't quick enough with the submit that time. They went to a commercial break, and I waited. It was listed at plus 550, and then it went to 625, and I was like, boom, and then I got it. And I'm never superstitious, but I told Rob, I said, I'm not turning on the game. You can tell me what's going on, and I'll just try to stay under control. But it's not the fact that it was only a $50 bet, but that's part of the discipline too. That when you're betting pizza money. This is a good example of pizza money. It might be an expensive pizza, but now I have 6 expensive pizzas. But that was an amazing finish. I don't know what to say, Rob, but welcome to the show.
It was an amazing finish, John. And like you're saying, the odds just didn't really line up to either one of us, right? Ohio State's only +2 with 1:20 left. And we know that Oral Roberts is as good a three-point shooting team as there is in the nation, so you have that puncher's chance to have plus 625 staring you in the face. Seems like in order to get those odds, you would have had to have been down by 7, 6, 7, 8 maybe to get that type of number. But instead, you're only down 2. Oral Roberts did come back, tie the game on a pair of free throws to send it into overtime. And then, well, most everybody watching maybe knows what happened by now, but certainly Oral Roberts gets the W. They're the first long shot through the first round here, or the second round as it's now called. And on to the next one. Ohio State's the first big-name team to depart this year's tournament. So like you said right off the bat, it's officially begun. When you get this type of upset on the first day, that's when this thing starts. So Max Asmus, he'll become a household name for Oral Roberts, number 3 in black. Very, very good today. As advertised. I think he scored 30, John, or close to 30 in that contest.
Yeah, he had 26 near the end of the game, and he shot a couple foul shots too. I think you said when you were giving me the game commentary when I was scaredy cat and didn't want to turn on the TV. But yeah, this is what makes it fun. And even if I would have lost that bet, there's going to be other opportunities coming up. There's going to be a lot of. As I said to Rob when we were. I was listening to the game through him, that there's a lot of buses coming at your bus stop, and you don't have to force it on every single one of them. But I was lucky on this. This involved really no skill other than maybe maybe a touch of experience, I guess.
Yeah, no, the advent of in-game wagering, John, that's the opportunities are presented each and every game. There's somewhere. I know you had told me that you got Arkansas at a very, very reduced price after Colgate went on their huge first half run today, and Arkansas winds up pulling away and winning very easily, not only covering the number you laid, but covering the full game numbers. So they're out there each and every game. They're there. You do have to act quick because sometimes you go to press the button and your bet gets rejected because, the either the VIG or whatever has moved on from you. So we got a few more days of this, a nighttime group of games coming up here. Just be on the lookout. You can find yourself some good opportunities.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think Rob would agree with me on this too, that you don't do the minus 120 or even the minus 115. Just be patient with it because it's very dynamic. It changes rapidly. It reminds me of of trading the S&P futures, or trading your Bitcoin futures, or whatever it is. It moves pretty darn fast, and you just don't want to be paying that minus 120 vig or minus 115. When you get minus 105, that's what I like, and then I'll pull it. But I still can't believe that was minus 1,000, which means that the books were actually expecting money to come in at minus 1,000 with a 2-point lead. And mathematically in my head, that it doesn't even come close to adding up. But in the other games, we've had 3 of the 4 go under, or 4 or 5 now, and the one that went over was Florida, who went into overtime against Virginia Tech. So that game would have gone under 2. So your theory about especially at Lucas Oil Arena, which is a football stadium, it makes sense. The teams are going to struggle in that venue because the backdrops the depth perception becomes so bad. And I think you're going to see a lot of unders in that stadium, like you said.
Yeah, at least first time around, John. And today, the first game that was played there was Baylor and Hartford. And it's, like I was saying to you, it's hard to tell how much of it is sight lines and kids not being familiar. Remember, for anybody who didn't watch us the other day, these teams practiced at the Indianapolis Convention Center. They did not get to practice on the floors, the venues where they were playing games. So, the first time they get to see the rims is shoot around before the game starts. And that's a problem, especially at Lucas Oil Stadium where you have 2 courts. It's tough enough with just one, but 2 courts dropped into a football stadium that seats about 80,000. So it's a little bit difficult. But like I said, it's hard to tell whether Hartford was just overmatched and couldn't score on any floor, even if it was their home gym, or if the sightlines really did affect shooting here. Baylor, I think at the end of the first half, was up to about 48%. I don't know what they shot for the second half. They pulled away and, won this game rather easily. But we've got another one coming up. Purdue, North Texas will be in this particular venue. And later on tonight, West Virginia and Morehead State will be in this venue. Both games have been played. I mean, the money has supported the under here. I think Purdue, North Texas at 124.5 now. And the Morehead State game I saw, in fact, I was talking to you when it happened, John. Went from 137.5 to 136 this afternoon. So people may be looking at the same angle here. But I think if we go back to last night, if I'm remembering right, the first 4 games, the only game that went over the number there was UCLA, right? And that took overtime. Yep. I think the other 3 games
that was overtime also. Yep.
Well, so it's a huge under run to start this tournament. I think 7 of the first 8 or 8 of the first 9 have all gone under the number.
Yeah, in terms of that Baylor Hartford game, let's see, Hartford shot 22% from beyond the arc, 35 for the game. They did make 80% of their free throws, which they are a good free throw shooting team. Baylor, they had 4 guys in double digits led by Teague, who's 9 for 17, 22. They shot 41%. Not all that good, really. Right. And 60% from the free throw lines and 33 from beyond the arc. So, the score of 79-55. Baylor won't be able to play like that against North Carolina.
No, and I think the good news for the teams that do advance at that particular venue is they'll have the 1 game of shooting under their belt. With the numbers that you just rattled off, if you had a combined field goal percentage from the field for the day of 2 teams that shot 30-something and 41, it's not a good number. It's not a good number, and it's not going to result in a lot of high-scoring games. But Baylor has now seen it once, and they do have, just an arsenal of 3-point shooters. So we'll see if that improves next game. I would think that it should once you get a look at it. But, again, it's 3, 4, 5 more games to come where teams will see it for the first time between today and tomorrow. And My theory was right off the bat, John, early in the week, I just played all 6 under for the heck of it. We got 1 home. We'll see if the rest come home with it.
I think that's a good bet. It's a shame you can't get a special bet for nailing 5 of 6. Say what the payout would be. MGM does that all the time. They all do, but MGM, in my opinion, is giving out some really interesting ones. Every once in a while you get the Ben Simmons triple double. It makes it fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
But man
the more
alive,
that they can offer, the better.
Yeah, in the Colgate Arkansas game, that was 36-33 at half, but they were down 14. You told me what it was. What was it, 33-19?
It was 33-19, and in fact, at one point I put up on Twitter that since that point in the game, it had gone 58-29 Arkansas. Just a total destruction after that, and I think it got even worse by game's end. But again, that's a ticket that you caught. Really good reduced price on Arkansas, and they had made up the deficit, John, by halftime. They went
did.
into the locker room in the lead.
It was they ran off 17 in a row to end the first half. It was 33-19. The halftime score was 36-33. That's crazy.
You're not seeing -2.5 anymore.
No,
So you got it at the right time.
But it was, again, it's not based on any magic potion or anything. It was just, Arkansas, if I'm going to go down with the ship, I'm going to go down with the ship. But when you can get them at Pick'em, or I guess they were as high as +4.5, it almost seemed like it was insane. And it was a good chance to get on them, even though I wasn't on them to begin with. And, I think going forward, too, the volatility, even a beginning bettor starting to see the volatility of these games. And in every single one of them, with the exception of Illinois, you probably could have got a better price for your bet, especially with the favorites, than the pre-flop line or the closing line. So you can be patient. You can do 50% of your normal bet size before the game starts and then look to add at better prices. Yeah, it certainly isn't disappointing in terms of the excitement. I mean, it really isn't.
No, we saw it even last night, John. The reversals from first half to second half, as you're saying, these teams that were getting destroyed at the half, you're getting a great price with them in the second half. And we saw so many turnarounds last night. It was crazy, some of those games. The Norfolk State game, I mean, I know they end up winning, but Appalachian State was 0 for 17 from 3 in the first half. Come back and take a lead in the second half. I think Texas Southern was being absolutely manhandled at the half, but Texas Southern comes back to win. Again, we talked about the Michigan State, UCLA comes back. So, like you say, this in-game stuff and the volatility of these contests, some of these teams come out with jitters to start the game.
Yep.
And they just can't find it. And I would say that Arkansas out of the SEC was one of those today that just maybe they didn't have the ultimate respect for Colgate to start the game, but once they were down 33-19, that was the wake-up call. These guys can shoot, these guys can play. Let's go out there and start playing ourselves. So it happens. It's going to happen more. It'll happen tonight in more than one instance. So if you're playing in game, keep your hand close to the trigger, because there's always a lot of it's gut feel, John. Like you said, there's no science or no magic to it. A lot of it is just watching these games all the time and just having that feeling something's going to happen. As with the Oral Roberts game was that was probably more of a value play than a feel play, but you get the idea. Gut feeling sometimes speaks pretty loud and gets you to the window to cash tickets just as frequently as anything else.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that the next one that is going to be coming up here is Tennessee. It's 38-25 with 18 minutes to go.
Right.
So what are we getting here? The lines are just coming up here on BetMGM. So I'm getting 7.5 points with Tennessee, 8.5 right now. and plus 450, 475.
Yeah, and just to let you know that it was 38-20 before it became 38-25. So it's moved to 41-25 right now. But you're right, Tennessee probably will not go down without a fight, and I don't know that it'll end up a 16-point game. So again, we're just trying to push viewers the right direction into making more winning bets than losing ones. And these games where you see a favorite of 8.5 down 16, and now you can get that favorite of 8.5 plus 8.5. That's a 17-point swing. Something you should take advantage of.
Yeah, absolutely. At the same time, you can't really think of it like in like you would with stocks. Like you're getting a dollar cost averaging thing going. I mean, arguably your minus 8.5 pre-flop is going to lose, but it's offset now by the plus 8.5, and you break even on the game, hopefully. But you're not adding more risk than you would on your normal 4% best bet play. So if you bet $100, you did 50. Now do 50 more, and that's it. You
Right.
don't. We talked about that the other day too. That I'm hearing horror stories that guys get into bets and then it goes against them, like Tennessee, and then they double down, and then it goes worse, and they double down again, and that's just not it's not fun, and it's not healthy, and it's not a good thing to do.
Now, in game, more or less, is made for kind of cut your losses, John. Not try and recoup everything and then some. It's just I'm gonna lose. Let's lose less than I would have lost, and not I'm gonna lose. Let's lose twice as much as I was gonna lose. It's certainly not made for that.
Yeah, I can't agree more. Now I'm seeing plus 700, plus 10.5. Well, let's talk about a couple of games that are coming up tonight.
Mm-hmm.
And is there any one of the games coming up tonight that sticks out for you?
Well, I think we talked the other day about North Texas and Purdue. I think that Purdue with Travion Williams is going to be a handful for North Texas. North Texas, another one of the, so-called popular mid-major underdogs here. And, if you're playing correlating side and total, John, I think you would look North Texas, right? You're talking about a total of 124.5 and a 7-point favorite. 124.5 is telling you the game's going to be very, very low scoring, and plus 7 is an even bigger number when it's in a game played, at in the low 60s, maybe high 50s. So understand the correlation there. I just think Purdue's the superior team. We talked a lot about it the other day, so I won't rehash what we talked about to begin with, but I just think that Purdue in Indianapolis, certainly I think they'll have a little bit of a friendlier audience than you would normally see in an NCAA tournament where ticket distribution is kind of evenly dispersed. Not going to be the case here. I think you saw that last night in the SMU game against Boise State, where the game is played 28 miles from SMU's campus, and it was loud for SMU. Probably be the same way for Purdue as they go through this particular tournament. But that's an interesting one. I do think that for just viewership, Wisconsin, North Carolina is going to be a game everybody's going to tune into. Contrast of styles there. Point spread tells you the game's going to be really good. Interested to see real quickly what Syracuse does against San Diego State. I think I was on with you the other day when you said, or somebody I was on with said that Syracuse just stands out as that typical team that nobody thought belonged in, and all of a sudden they go a couple of rounds. And they've got the shooting ability to do it. We'll see. Two really good defensive teams. I do like under in that contest, just based on the two defensive sides here, the matchup zone for Syracuse and a tough defense of San Diego State. But it'll be interesting to see where Syracuse goes. And one more thing real quick, just because Ohio State lost today, I know just off air as we were talking, you were like, well, there goes everybody saying the Big Ten stinks. You cannot generically place a blanket over any conference just because a team wins or a team loses. They're all individuals, and the Big Ten showed very well with Illinois, didn't show well with Ohio State. Maybe you could say they didn't show well with Michigan State, but that has nothing to do with Wisconsin, Purdue, Michigan, Iowa, any of the others that are coming up, Rutgers here, either tonight or tomorrow, those teams certainly can be as good as they were in conference season.
Yeah, that Rutgers Clemson game I do like. It's not one of my premium picks, but I feel confident enough to recommend it. The only thing I don't like is 75% of the money, 70% of the tickets is on them. I generally don't like to be with the crowd. I'd rather be against the crowd, as we saw with Oral Roberts. But I said to you, I think it was either before I pulled the trigger or right after. It seemed like there was some late money came in on Oral Roberts and pushed Circa and Westgate down to 14.5. And half a point that late in the day is pretty significant. Sometimes you see that in football, but not too often in college basketball that close to the start of the game. And am I suggesting somebody knew something? Not at all. But somebody of size probably came in at the close and liked Oral Roberts.
Right, and that's the key right there. It wouldn't be public money coming in that late, that heavy on an underdog of that size. The public's going to ride with the team that they know, the brand name Ohio State. If it comes in on Oral Roberts that late, that heavy, then it's somebody with, a sizable, it's one of the syndicate groups or somebody that just like that side at that price. So, yeah, sharp money, as they call it, certainly gets paid in that game because those tickets all cash.
Yeah, for sure. I wonder if it was Steve Merrill.
It could have been. It could have been.
Yeah. So,
John, real quick, I didn't mean to interrupt you there, but real quick, the Winthrop Villanova game, one of interest tonight, right? I mean, I don't know that there's a bigger bandwagon against the side than there is tonight against Villanova because of the Colin Gillespie injury. I was asked today, real quickly, John. I was asked because on the Wager Talk Today show, I went in and broke down Oklahoma, Missouri. And for Oklahoma, their number 2 scorer, Davion Harmon, tested positive this week and will not play in that game. And Teddy Savransky asked me, Rob, with the number 2 scorer out, how come we don't see a huge shift in the line? Missouri is still a +1 underdog here, and it seems like there's just no movement. Whereas when Moses Wright was announced out, Loyola Chicago went from 2.5 to 5.5. With Colin Gillespie out, everybody wants Winthrop. The bigger injuries, the more known teams and the more known players certainly have had a real effect on the line in some of these games. But I think perhaps people just don't understand how valuable Harmon is to his team, not only on the offensive side, but on the defensive side as well. And maybe Missouri just doesn't have that kind of pull with the bettor yet to have them flock their way. But I do think that Missouri has a pretty good chance now with Harmon out. Not that they didn't to begin with. I mean, it's an 8-9 game. They had a chance. But it is funny how injuries are reacted to or have been reacted to in this tournament kind of differently depending upon what team it is and how well-known the player is.
Yeah, I can't agree more. I think we also talked in the Villanova game with Gillespie being out. They don't discount it all as much as you would think. I mean, he obviously is the transmission of that team and that offensive engine, and the way he plays, sometimes with just so much energy, it's incredible. However, these elite teams have some 4-star recruits that are on the bench that cannot wait to get in the game, showcase their talents, if nothing else, to make the starting lineup for next year. And I do think, with a coach like Jay Wright, you can't underestimate his coaching abilities to put the right 5 players together to start this game. And I'm seeing that line at 6 right now. And if it goes to any lower, I'm going to take a taste of it. At least a sprinkle of Villanova. And at that price, I just can't imagine that it doesn't end up being a good bet. Can you imagine them getting blown out by like 10 points or 15? I can't.
Yeah, and just to add to that, John, when you talk about will there be some potential or even more line movement than there already has been, it's almost like what the Hawaii game is in football on a Saturday night. Jay Wright's team plays the very last game of the night. People have bet 15 other games, and now it's time to make stuff up or recoup some money or even increase what you've won. And that's where Winthrop's going to come into play, right? Because everybody's heard Winthrop, and Villanova doesn't have their best player. And you may see 5.5. You may see 5, depending upon how much money is played on that side. But I would agree that the potential for this line to go down is far greater than it is to go up. I don't think you're going to see it increase to 6.5. Funny, Jay Wright in an interview I saw yesterday, late last night, or even early this morning, I forget which, but he said, this is the worst defensive team I've had, and it's not because I don't have the players. It's because of the pandemic and the way I chose to coach. He said, I cut some corners and left some stuff out that we usually work on, so it's not the kids' fault. So that right there, that little bit, when you're always trying to read between the lines of coach speak, right? Because coaches don't give you a lot to go on. But somewhere between the lines there, it seems to me the reason why we've seen this game move up in total, 140 to 143. Winthrop's a massively good offensive team, and Jay Wright doesn't have the defense that he would like. Will Jay Wright go with Winthrop pace-wise? He may think he's got the horses to do so for a portion of the game. He's not going to go 40 minutes. But like you said, they still have a lot of talented guys, and he has had a week to have this full group together. In fact, he had them all together minus Gillespie for the last game of the Big East tournament. So he had a game plus all this time. I'm kind of with you. I'm not going to sell Pat Kelsey and Winthrop short because it's a really good team, but we're talking about we play numbers, right? We're playing against numbers. We're not playing against, we're not saying Pat Kelsey's a bad coach. Jay Wright's so much better as a coach. We're just saying when the number gets to be 5.5 or 5, you got to reconsider a little bit. This is a Class A team, Villanova.
Yeah, I agree. Just sitting here listening to you talk, I'm almost tempted to, and I hate parlays. I hate teasers. They're called that for a reason. But every once in a while, I will do parlays with money line dogs, especially in baseball. Mm-hmm. But in this case, there's a parlay called an action reverse. Pays 4-1. It's a dangerous parlay. If you've never heard of it, Google it because you need to know what happens in each possible outcome. So if you would bet, let's say $100 reverse action, you would lose 120 if you go 1-1. You're going to lose 240 if you lose both. If you win both, you're going to get 400. So it's more aggressive. So if you've never done one, don't do it tonight. But this is a situation I think where I would be tempted with the pizza money again. For me, no more than $50, but Villanova and the under. So 2 contrarian plays. Everybody and their brother. Right now, 72% of tickets, 88% of the money on Winthrop. The over has 75% of the tickets and 85% of the money on the over. And by game time, that over could be, easy. It'll probably be 144 across the board, is my guess, unless we get some buyback. But it's tempting. I will say that. I just every time I think parlay and this looks good, I start thinking like, all right, what's wrong with this? Why does this look so good? If it's too good to be true, it's telling you something. But I think at least on the side, the Villanova side, 6.5. I'm seeing 6 now at South Point on the Wager Talk odds page. And for those that don't know, it's a tremendous odds page. And like I said, so is the Vegas odds machine that my partner here, Rob Veno, has. That can tell you what books are legal in your state. Whereas the Wager Talk one is looking at the DraftKings, William Hill, but the rest of them are all Vegas. And that's important to see too. Well, I don't know. I'll have to ponder that one, but I think what I'm going to try to do now that we had this lucky call on Oral Roberts is that when I do an in-game bet, I'll try to tweet it. and that way people can kind of follow along, or at least see how I do over the weekend, and then decide for themselves whether they want to give it a shot.
Yeah, it's the next evolution in these types of shows, right, John? Is to just have an in-game betting show where guys tune in and games are actively being played, and you're suggesting plays as games go along. It's funny when you talked about reverse; it just brought up young memories for me because growing up on the East Coast, and we're both from the same area, tri-state area, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut. It was an if in reverse was, if not the most popular type of bet on a Sunday afternoon for the adults. I was only a kid at that time, but basically they would bet a 1 o'clock game. If that game wins, that thing rolls right over to a 4 o'clock game. And as you say, it could pay very well. It could end up, there's two ways it could end up being a minus for you, but they are aggressive, and it just reminded me, if in reverse were so popular. I've never played one in my life, but they were so popular back in the day.
Yeah, maybe I should have brought it up for a cautionary reason, but you can go to any of the sites or just Google it, action reverse, and then the if bets, as Rob is saying, like if I win this one, then I'm going to add this team. If I win this one, I'm going to add that. But those bets give you time to add the next leg. But I think you have to determine how many legs you're doing before you set the bet. You can't just keep, start with 2 and then add. You have to say, I'm doing a 6-teamer. And, I've never done those, Rob. I don't know if you have, but I have some friends that have hit them, and they send me the ticket, or they'll tweet it and tag me and say, look. But then, I ask them, I say, like, how many hundreds or thousands of dollars did you already lose to win this one, and how much are you still down doing this? It's in a nice way, of course.
They're difficult, to say the least.
Yeah. Yep. We got one comment here I can show you quick. This guy must be an Oral Roberts alum, I would think. James Patrick Linneman. Yeah. Yeah, that's. I still can't believe it happened, and that's not because of the bet. If I wouldn't have done that, I'd still be sitting here numb. It's just unimaginable that occurred, but it did. Now we're going to see more.
To put that win in perspective, John, most NCAA tournaments in recent memory, the team that has come from that particular conference is South Dakota State. And people have been unafraid to bet South Dakota State. I mean, South Dakota State, for what it's worth, became a mid-major household name. And generally speaking, a really good offensive team that I think they had a couple of star players over the course of the last 5-6 years. But Oral Roberts comes from that league, the Summit. So to see them pull it off, probably not as big of a surprise as some would think, because, again, South Dakota State was a team people would freely bet in these tournaments and not think twice. But because Oral Roberts hasn't been there in quite some time, it just doesn't carry the same weight. But it's a good basketball team with an NBA player on it. So we'll see how they do next round against Florida. There's a little NIT action here tonight, too, for those who don't want to stop at the NCAA stuff. I think Louisiana Tech and Ole Miss are playing a game in their Texas bubble for the NIT, and Colorado State and Buffalo. Don't have the current line in front of me, John. I'm trying to look here. I know Buffalo was a very high total game, 153, I think.
Yep, and it's 154.
And a ton of money on Louisiana Tech against Kermit Davis's Ole Miss team. Very quickly, I'll just tell you, I went through to try and find a couple articles, because to me, the line move was a little strange. And what can happen in the NIT is, Mississippi played their hearts out to end the season, and we're pretty close to actually making it into the NCAA. So, the first thing you're looking for is Are they depressed? Is there no motivation to go out there and beat Louisiana Tech? I really didn't find any of those particular quotes where the coach said or the players said that they weren't happy to be playing in the NIT. But to have a game move from 6.5, all the way down to 3.5, where Ole Miss is the superior team defensively, offensively, Conference USA, in my estimation, was a poor league this year. We said there's always a tipping point, right, where you got to come back with the favorite, and maybe Ole Miss at that small price is worth a look.
Yeah, I would think so too. I have 69% of the tickets, 86% of the money's on Louisiana Tech. So that's that's the Alan Greenspan term that I like, irrational exuberance. But again, I mean, that's not saying that Mississippi's the right bet either. It's just saying that over time, if you make more bets against the herd than with the herd, you probably have better potential of ending up with some extra coin in your pocket.
Yeah, no question. And these one game, really, I know we're on a lot of shows, John, and we do shows with a lot of different handicappers from Wager Talk and Sports Memo, but I know a lot of these guys try to pound home I don't even want to call it an idea, the fact that people like us are playing 365 days a year, and with the Mississippi game, for instance, you said it could lose. Of course it could lose. But taking that one game sample and then applying it to all of your future handicapping, just like buying one play from either one of us that might go wrong and applying it as a blanket, this guy stinks. Those types of things, you can't generalize those types of things in your handicapping theory. If Ole Miss, again, we're betting numbers. 3.5 looks a lot better than laying 6.5, and at some point there's buyback. And so perhaps just a suggestion that Ole Miss could be correct tonight. If it's not, don't be soured on an Ole Miss team, or don't be soured on going against bucking point spread moves, because generally speaking, John, these point spread moves are 50-50. If you sit there and try and guess which ones are legit smart money plays and which ones aren't, you go broke doing it. So don't have any.
Yeah, it's here's one. We'll end the show with this. Jill Lewis, what's your thought on the Oklahoma State game? And I think we had covered that earlier, and it's okay that you joined the show after we covered it, but I think we're on Oklahoma State, both of us, I think, right, Rob?
Yeah, Liberty is obviously going to play that slow pace, and I think the other day when we talked, John, I compared Liberty to Loyola. Certainly same methodical style. I think the difference between Liberty and Loyola is the fact that Loyola is senior laden, and they've been here and done that before, where Liberty has 2-3 sophomores in that top six. They haven't actually been there, done that yet, but Richie McKay is a really good head coach. Oklahoma State with Cade Cunningham obviously has the star power, but they're a healthy group. They're going to get slowed down here. I just don't think there's any way that you can speed Liberty up. So we'll see. The points, again, in a low-scoring game, 7 points, a lot of points, but I do think Oklahoma State's the winner there. I don't think Liberty can beat them. Yeah,
I agree too. Yep, I hope that helps him with that. Oklahoma State is backed by a pretty powerful system here. Seeds 13 through 16, with the exception of Oral Roberts. No, seriously. Seeded 13 through 16. You're betting against seeds 13 through 16 that have won 4 more games and are an underdog of less than double digits. So that's hit 72% last 25 years with almost 90 picks. So again, with track records, betting systems, like you were saying, like don't evaluate one betting system or one handicapper on one game. 72% means that 28% of the time these things lose.
That's right.
So that's the important thing to remember. I think, over my last 760 NBA and college basketball games going back to 2017, I'm at 57.5%. And, unfortunately, you and I both know that some people look at 57.5 and say, well, that guy sucks. Right. But if you hit that consistently, it ends up being a lot of coin.
It does. It certainly does. I mean, it's hard to do. I would suggest to anybody, go make 700 plays and try and do it. It's not easy, and it is extremely profitable. I mean, I know people want to see the 80% and the 90% and the locks, and there's a lot that goes with that, John. Right? I mean, our industry is tainted by some who claim that type of thing, but the crew that we're with, very transparent. Numbers are there, and we're here to tell you that if you're playing games every day of the year, 365 days, and you hit 57%, you made yourself a nice yearly salary. Believe me.
Yep.
It only takes 52.8 to break even on a minus 110. So 57 is well above that. So that's good work, and that's a lot of money.
Hey, with baseball starting too, I've had seasons under 50% winners.
Right.
But I play a lot of dogs like you do. And that's the only way you could truly make money in NHL and Major League Baseball. But your win percentage might be terrible. But those money line sports are all about units won. It's not win percentage. So just keep that in mind as baseball season approaches.
Yeah, and when you have Brian Leonard on for baseball, Brian is absolutely of that mentality. Baseball underdogs, cash $1.60 ticket, and you can lose 1.5 bets and still be ahead of the game. So
Yep.
certainly underdog plays in baseball, very valuable. And you're right, you can hit 46, 47% and still come out with a good year as far as profit is concerned.
Yeah, I can't wait for that either. It's just good to have everything back together. So I guess we'll wrap it up here for this show, Rob. We might be able to put something together over the weekend here with with you and some of our other comrades to talk about maybe the second round of the tournament or games like we did tonight. So hopefully, I'm sure it was helpful. It was good education. I think that especially for the beginning bettor, I think we gave them some good information. So that's good. So I thank you for being on, Rob. Do you want to share with everybody too where where you can be found? I know it's wagertalk.com, but some of your plays, if you have anything big going Saturday or Sunday, you can let them know, and the stage is yours.
Yeah, well, this evening, John, in the NCAA tournament, and I was not aware of this. A colleague of ours at Wager Talk, Ralph Michaels, actually made me aware of it, that I've been part of Wager Talk since early or mid 2018 and have never released a college basketball 5% side. And
Wow.
We have one tonight in the NCAA tournament. It's the first one I've had in 2.5 years. I didn't know that. I've had 5%, but generally speaking, I'm a totals player, and they've come with totals. But tonight, 5% side in college basketball action. Also a 4% play in the NCAA tournament. NBA action up as well. So I think it's 4 plays in all for tonight's action. You can get them all at wagertalk.com. And again, media content there as well that we are both part of as Sports Memo and Wager Talk. You and I do a lot of work for those two companies or that one company. And you can get all our media stuff, analyzing these games, every sport. A lot of good advice for free. Just sign up for free at wagertalk.com and go to the YouTube channel and watch endless amounts of video content that we produce each and every day to try and help you get to the winner's circle a little more often than not.
Yeah, I love it. And you guys got to get that 5%. I mean, that's
it's crazy, right?
Yeah, you gotta go do it. I mean, it's even if you just buy that one play, you'll see the research that goes behind his plays, and that's what matters, because then you can see the experience and the knowledge.
It does come with a written analysis. I failed to say that, John, but it does come with a written analysis.
Yep. And I oftentimes say that when we do lose, the research makes the client understand why we lost. It didn't go our way, and here's why it didn't go our way. And I think that's so important too, the success of the guys that are on Wager Talk. And it's not throwing darts at a board, and it's not fabricating records. It's fully transparent, and it's awesome to be part of a team like that. And you don't find a place where guys like Rob Veno are endorsing me, and I'm endorsing the other guys. The other places are very competitive, and It's like a cannibal. You're just doing everything you can to make a sale. Whereas this is a group team effort, and it's really cool. So do yourself a favor and get on his play tonight, and I'm glad. I'm sure you'll be glad you did. So I guess that puts a ribbon on it for tonight, Rob. I appreciate you being with me, and I'll check with you here off air for any time Saturday or Sunday that we can, do a similar show, and then maybe bring some of the other guys on, like that Steve Merrill guy, and Tony Finn would be great to have. I mean, any of them. So for the Predictive Playbook, I am John Ryan, and always remember the motto: may all the wins be yours.